everyone. This is Gail Estella, and welcome to the Gail Estella Survival Podcast. Here's where we turn pain into purpose, because survival isn't a whisper, it's a roar. Before we get started, there's a couple of things I would like for you to do for me. I would like for you to I need you to go in and like, comment, and share the Gail Estella Survival Podcast. Where are you tuning in from? Put in the comment box below where you're tuning in from. I'm here in Aiken, South Carolina. Hey, are you following me on all of my social platforms? Are you following me on all of my social media platforms? If not, go in and do so. Have you purchased your copy of Through It All? If you haven't, you're not too late. It's not too late. You can go to TrueVinePublishingCompany.org, Amazon.com, and anywhere books are sold. July is the month of independence, but here, freedom isn't a holiday. It's a healing process. All month long, my guests will be sharing their stories on how they truly became free through it all. Oh, my guest for today, Mr. Terrance Brown. This person is like family to me. And when I reached out to ask him to be a guest on the Gail Estella Survival Podcast, he immediately said yes. And I was so excited because his story is so compelling. And he is so transparent with his story that is going to help save a lot of people's lives and to help set someone else free. Mr. Terrance Brown, are you ready to come in?
Yes. Hello.
Hi, how are you doing?
I'm great, Gail. Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, there are so many topics we're going to cover tonight. Let's start with SGL. And for the audience, will you tell us what SGL means?
Same gender loving.
Same gender loving.
Yes.
And when you told me the phrase SGL, I did a little research, and it says that SGL, same gender loving, is primarily used within the Black American community to describe a homosexual or a bisexual identity.
Or gay. Yes.
Okay. So why use that terminology instead of gay?
Well, the gay homosexual terminology were just geared toward the white America, for lack of a better phrase.
Okay.
And the same gender loving community have a better relationship to that, and it doesn't signify that it's trying to stay away from that homosexuality term for some odd reason.
The stigma that comes along with it.
Yes.
That makes sense. That makes sense. Okay, so let's get started. How old were you when you realized that you were attracted to the same sex?
Oh my gosh. I can remember being a kid and having feelings for the same gender. I must have been, oh gosh, 3 or 4?
Oh,
maybe
wow.
5.
Okay.
I remember I was a toddler and I lived in Stamford, Connecticut, and I was in kindergarten or first grade.
So how are those feelings for someone like me that don't understand, or someone in the audience that may not understand? How are those feelings as a child?
It was challenging, even though I didn't know much about who you should be with regarding relationship. I wasn't clear about, a heterosexual versus same gender loving relationship. I knew that it was interesting, and I don't want to say different, but it wasn't accepted,
Right.
in a sense.
Okay.
No one taught us growing up about that type of relationship.
Without ever
On the commercials, you always saw opposite sex.
So with society today, and you made mention of commercials, because now just about every television show that you see, a lot of commercials, they have integrated or incorporated same gender loving relationships. So do
Yes.
you think this gives the masses or gives us more education on it, or it gives us the fact that it's more accepted now?
Yes, I
Okay.
do. I
Okay.
do, because with the information, people can process, what they see on the in the commercials, and also on bulletins. I noticed that when I'm flying, and I'm walking through the terminal, you can see the ads of credit cards or airplane flights or companies, and you see those same gender loving pictures everywhere.
So going back to the little boy, how was it for you growing up realizing that you had an attraction to the same gender?
It was, I had experienced a lot of feelings behind the treatment that I received growing up. In school, for me, I was, I guess, in between feminine and masculine. But some of my characters made children treat me a certain way. And not only children, adults. And I was called a lot of names outside of my name. Faggot. I, walking down the street, or because I wasn't altogether masculine per se. And so being called out my name was hurtful. They say sticks and stones may break your bones, and names would never hurt you, but they do hurt.
They do. They do.
Yes.
Yeah, they
Yes.
do. Wow. So is it safe to say that you were bullied?
It is safe to say that. Yes.
Sticks and stones may break your bones, but words would never hurt. And it just makes me think about verbal abuse and emotional abuse. When a person thinks about abuse, they always think it has to be physical. But it's like you said, it's the words that
Yes.
stays. It's the words that you can't put a band-aid on. You can't put anything to ease the pain from it. So what do you do with it? What did you do with those words?
I isolated. I introverted myself. I remember getting into art. I started drawing a lot. I would be in my room, and I would just hang out in my room a lot, and whatever I saw in my room, I would just draw it. I remember drawing a fish tank that I had near a stereo that I had, or the scenery from my window. I was just sketching a lot, and that's basically how I guess I dealt with my emotions. I wasn't a sports fanatic. I didn't I did join the band at school, and I played the flute. I don't know if that was an act of escape, But yeah, yeah, those are some of the things I can remember doing as a child.
Did you have anyone to talk to about your feelings?
Not at all. Growing up back then, grew up in the '60s, and children were saw, not heard,
Mm-hmm.
in my household. My mother was a single parent, and she wasn't that emotionally available because she was a single parent, and she was doing her best to grow three children she had to raise three children. So she never inquired about our feelings, or she wasn't nurturing in that way.
Did your mother ever make notice of that she might have seen, and I don't want to use the word different, that she might have seen something in you that you weren't attracted to girls?
Yes,
Do you think she ever saw it in you?
she did see it, and she never chastised me for it. In the I didn't go through the I never was beat for it, for lack of a better phrase.
Yes, because that happens a lot.
Right. But she did. It got to a point where she was frustrated about it, and I met my father at 12 years old, and that's when she sent me away because the neighbors were talking a lot about my behaviors, and I guess she, like I stated, was frustrated about it. And so she wanted me to have a role model of men in my life. And she sent me to South Carolina to
Mhm.
live with my family there.
So, did she ever address it? Was it ever talked about in the household?
No,
No.
and no, it was never talked about. And I didn't talk to her about her actions until I was 25 years old.
Wow. Okay. Okay. So, at 12 years old, you're living in Connecticut and you have to go to the deep south, a totally different type of environment. How was that
Yes,
for you? And then you had to meet people that you didn't really know. So, how was that for a 12-year-old?
it was traumatizing.
Yes.
I I've I've experienced abandonment issues. I have
Mm,
those, and when I'm, like you say, leaving one environment, which I thought was a safe environment, going into a complete different environment, I felt the less love from my mother because she kept my two sisters with her,
yeah. Yes.
and I've acquired abandonment issues behind
Mhm,
that.
mhm, mhm. So when those type of things happen, and not necessarily just to you, but something I read when I was doing my research, that one of the stigmas for um, same gender loving black males is, or one of the characteristics is homelessness or being unhoused, due primarily to the fact that a lot of the parents put them out of the home, for a
Mhm.
lack of a better word. And I just think about the show Pose, where they had these homes where the women would bring these guys, when the transgender women would bring these boys in off of the street to give them a safe environment. So for someone that may be listening and they're struggling with their child's identity, sexual identity, what's one thing that you would tell them not to do?
I would tell them not to speak, not, I would tell them not speak about, not talk about what's happening with them. I would tell them to, open up, reach out to people, voice your feelings, voice your experience, look for assistance. Yeah, because it's not healthy to experience this alone. And when you talked about Pose and those guys who were put out their homes because of their sexuality or that same gender loving lifestyle, it's good that they have those homes to go to. But I saw the show. I just don't. It's a different home from your own home. So I don't know how healthy that environment is.
Okay. So would it be safe to say to ask a parent to keep their children at home and not put them out? Or
absolutely,
because
absolutely.
It just sounds to me like you're just discarding someone because they're not who you want them to be or who you think they should be. So you're just discarding them.
Absolutely. That's exactly what's happening. And it's being shunned. It's being, just not accepted,
Right.
and it's hurtful when you're rejected. It was hurtful for me to be rejected. When I was able to talk to my mom about her actions at 25, it was in the therapeutic section, and that was helpful. And I thank God for me going into a rehab. I know we didn't touch base about my drug usage and my alcohol usage, but I think a lot of that had to do with that was a way for me to deal with those issues.
Right.
Thank you for all the overwhelming support that you have shown me on the release of my first book, Through It All. And I would like to give a special thank you to all of you that have purchased your copy of Through It All. I would like to read a review to you. Hey girl, I just finished reading your beautiful book. God has done some amazing transformation in your life. You are definitely a testament. Love you, girl. If you purchase your book, and once you finish reading your copy of Through It All, please leave me a review, or better yet, a short video snippet of you telling your takeaways from Through It All. There are so many girls and women that are suffering in silence. They need to know that no matter what it is that they've gone through, no matter what it is that they're going through, that through it all, that they will be okay. And if you haven't purchased your copy of Through It All, let's get the word out there. Through it all, that you can still stand. Through it all, you can still thrive. Through it all. Thank you.
New culture, new environment, new way of living, new way of thinking. Was that any better, or did it make it better? How were you accepted once you got there?
I was. I was. I was accepted as a child, not by, I was accepted because I was my father's child. My father was a prominent man. He was, a money maker, entrepreneur back then for his time, and they respect my dad. So his siblings were respected too. And my grandmother actually raised me, and she saw me as my father's child. I don't think she saw me as anything other than that. Nothing was ever said about the way I behave, in a sense of being same gender loving or being feminine. I
Mm-hmm.
know that I was introduced to sports, though. I was introduced to cousins and relatives, and and I'm grateful for that. It did open up a whole new lifestyle for me, and in that lifestyle that I've in the South, I've gained morals and values, a different type of moral and value that I had in Connecticut, living with a single mother. In my grandparents' household, there was my grandfather and my grandmother there, so I was able to experience a a complete family, for lack of a better phrase.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah,
So how was it? So you received the love that you needed at home, and that's good.
yes,
How was it for you in school? So now you're what, 13, middle school, entering high school maybe?
yeah. I was in middle school, entering high school,
Mm-hmm.
and just go back a little bit. Even I
Okay.
received the love in my family's home in the South, but you were still kind of like you it was still that somewhat that lack of nurturing, in a sense. Not to disregard the great upbringing I had there, but there was it's that nurturing piece that's missing, that no one's talking about what's really happening with me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But and so at the same time, well, to answer your question about school down south, it was hard. It was horrid. I was in a brand new atmosphere. I still had my ways, and I remember this kid that would always bully me, and I was terrified about going to school, because this kid was. It seemed like he made it his business to come over and harass me. He's he would come around. He would come around me and pull my pants down and just torture me in school. And it was just horrible. Um, yeah. So it wasn't, and I didn't really speak about or tell anybody about it.
Why not?
Like I said, I was introverted, and I just kind of like dealt with stuff myself.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have that communication with my parents or with my cousins and aunts and uncles on that level to talk about what was really happening in school. I didn't know how to do that.
Mm-hmm.
I
And
didn't
most
know how to.
kids don't.
Pardon?
I said most kids don't. So with the pain and everything that you were feeling, how did you mask it? How did you cope with it? Because now you're older than that little kid isolating to his bedroom and drawing and playing the flute. So what ways did you mask or cope with a new set of pain in a new environment?
I was I was introduced to drinking. That's when I really first started drinking. Is when I got to South Carolina, and I think that's how I started dealing with the pain or
Mm-hmm.
the discomfort, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and yeah, I started drinking with a neighbor up the street, and we would just hang out and thought we were having a fun time, but I knew that it was a way for me to get out of myself. Yeah.
And then, yeah, a way to get out of yourself, but actually, it just digs a deeper hole. Is that true to
Absolutely.
say?
It did dig a deeper hole for me. I found myself, I didn't even realize it when I think about it. When I look back on that, I didn't realize that I was drinking more or using drugs more to deal with the pain or the struggle.
Mm-hmm.
At first I thought it was a grown up thing to do,
Mm-hmm.
and of course, grown ups do the same thing.
They do.
They drink to mask the problem, and
Mhm.
so I thought it was glamorous. I thought it was a way of life to live, of
But
accomplishment.
did it make you feel that you were now fitting in or a part of?
Exactly, that part.
Mm-hmm.
I felt a connection. I
Mm-hmm.
felt a connection because that's I was able to sit around the fellows or sit around the ladies or even be around my own kind, and we had something in common, and that was drinking and drugging. And on the hindsight, I wasn't dealing with what was really going on inside. Yeah.
So I'm going to ask this question. And I know this question is asked a lot. If you felt you had a choice to be heterosexual or to be at, same gender loving, if you had a choice, what choice would you have made? Or do you feel you have a choice?
I don't feel like I have a choice. No. However, I felt like I needed to choose because of the society and the way I was treated. Therefore, I went on dates with the opposite sex. I've had relationships with the opposite sex only because of what was expected of me.
And so, with that being said, dating women, having sex with the opposite sex, and I get it, but is that fair to the female? And then at the same time, were you feeling fulfilled by being with the opposite sex?
I didn't hear your last part of the question.
Did you have a feeling of fulfillment?
It was a feeling of not fulfillment. But it was a feeling there. It was a feeling of more so of accomplishment.
Oh, that you did it despite of. Wow.
Yeah.
So was it also a feeling of realization that no, this isn't who I am?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I played the role of being interested, and I'm not a great role player, to be honest.
Mhm.
But I did my best at it, and for some odd reason, the females didn't. I don't know what their story were or why they pursued me, knowing my characters, but I don't know how that works.
Wow. Yeah, it makes you wonder. It makes you wonder. Because then you look at them and what type of self-esteem issues they But it happens. It happens.
Absolutely.
Because
So,
we think we can, females think that we can change a man. We can change him.
and I think their objectives were, is
Right.
to try to change me. And and I tried it, but it's just no matter what, it just wasn't my nature.
It wasn't your nature. So how were you when you truly decide I'm going to walk into who I am, and you
Mm.
accepted it and you announced it? I don't want to say, came out of the closet, but you announced that this is who Terry Brown is.
You're right. And it's not safe for me to say coming out of the closet because I never had that DL attitude.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But I came to terms with myself at 25 years old in that same therapeutic session with my mom. When I talked about, the abandonment issues because she sent me away to be around more men role models. And I talked about just me accepting myself as who I am, and it was not just with my mom that I had this, meaning it was with my siblings in Connecticut, the two sisters, and the therapist there. So at 25 years old, I really came to terms with who I was, and I started embracing that.
And how did that make you feel?
Oh my gosh. Um, I don't even think free or relieved or liberated is the appropriate word. It's something better than that, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It was just, something that needed to happen for me.
Needed to happen for you. So we
Absolutely.
know that you are in sobriety, or that you. Let me start here. Cut this. We know that you struggled. Let me see. How can I say this? So you said free, and you talked about substance abuse. So when did the substance abuse become a problem?
Hmm.
At
Well,
what age?
they say studies, I guess, say that we are addicts or alcoholics from the day we're born because we inherit it. It's inherited. Um, for me, I think the problem was, or the challenge, or when I saw that I had an issue with drugs and
Mm-hmm.
alcohol, was at the age of 1920.
19 and 20. So can you remember, and I always like to call it that imaginary line that you're using, and it's somewhat fulfilling,
Mm-hmm.
and we cross a line into addiction.
Yeah,
Can you remember crossing that line?
I do. I do, and it was when I was actually introduced to crack
Mm,
that that line was like I crossed the line and I was gone basically. Everything went downhill for that. I remember drinking and drugging, and he actually using cocaine. It was controllable, for lack of a better phrase. I
yes.
was still able to maintain a job, you
Function.
know, and participate in functions.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And then 19, I think 1986 or 87 is when that I crossed that line. And I was at 23 years old. And it was hell. It was something that I thought I would never experience. You know, yeah, I wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy.
Yes. So realizing or accepting the fact that you are saying gender loving. Now there's an addiction. Wow, how heavy was all of that for you?
It had to be it had to be God to carry me. You know, the footprints in the sand?
In the sand.
It was 2 footprints that I looked down to see. And it was my God, higher power carrying me through this, because I know that I kind of gave up, basically. And yeah, it was, I tried going to church. I knew I had a problem. I knew I had a problem with being accepted as a gay man, and I knew I had a problem with using drugs. So I joined the church. I prayed about being homosexual or same gender loving, and I prayed about the using of drugs and alcohol. Most importantly, the apparent issue I had was the drug usage at this time. And I remember praying, getting on my knees and asking God to take this taste away. Shortly after that, my mom introduced me to a man at our church, and he introduced me to the Anonymous program.
Okay. So you were back in Connecticut at this time?
At this time, I had moved back to Connecticut.
Okay.
Yes.
You were introduced to a 12-step program.
And I was introduced to the 12-step program through a minister from our church. And his ministry was the drugs and alcohol program.
And how was that for you? Did you, once you entered the 12-step program, did you immediately become sober? Or my story was not that. How long was it before you became sober?
No, I was in denial.
Yes.
You know, I didn't think I had a problem. I knew that I was challenged with something. And I thought maybe going into this process, I went into a 21-day stop program in Massachusetts because my job sent me there, and I wanted to keep my job. And my family was, fed up with me. So I went there and I learned about the fellowship. I learned about the program, but I didn't implement it in my life. And I got out of that 21-day program, and I started going to meetings because it was suggested, or it was kind of like pushed down my throat to go. So I did.
30 minutes and 30 days.
And so I went for a couple of times. When I first went, I was so welcomed, which a lot of people are looking for, that acceptability. I felt accepted, and people applauded me when I said it was my first time there. I got hugs and phone numbers. And then I continued to go, and I stopped getting that applaud.
Yes.
I stopped getting that welcome. And I had to do the footwork, and I got afraid, or maybe something happened where I didn't want to work at it.
Yes, it's my book. Through it all, Stella. This book has 6 powerful chapters, offering a quick and meaningful read filled with uplifting and empowering insights. Let's take a look. Here's the start through it all. Stella. True Bomb Publishing. And in the back, there's a place for you to take notes. You're going to want to take notes. I'm an author. I am an author. Stella, the author. If I can say anything to you, it would be, do not give up on your dreams. Do not give up on your dreams, because they can come true. I am a true testament to this.
I stopped going to meetings and I started going to the old people, places, and things again, of where people were drinking and going to the clubs. And I remember drinking the Duels for a while. I started drinking that non-alcoholic beer and hanging out in the club. And eventually I picked up the Long Island iced tea I always wanted. And off to the races.
That's entering a 12-step program. And like you said in the beginning, you feel welcome. You're the most important person at the meeting. The newcomer is the most important person at the meeting. And then all of a sudden, you just become another person in the meeting. And you're still looking for something. You still need something. And for those that don't follow the steps, how important is it to follow the steps of the 12-step program?
I think it's a vital part, a very important part of the fellowship, the anonymous program. Or, it's not that I was brainwashed, because I tried this for myself. I tried following it and not really implementing the steps in my life, and I end up using it again. Or I felt myself using other stuff in the fellowship. So sex became an issue for me. Yeah, so I picked up sex to fill that void. And that's only because I really wasn't implementing the steps in my life. And I was like 10 years sober where I started acting out with sex. And I realized that, something isn't vibing here. I got a sponsor who sat down with me, who went through each step with me, and we were able to address those other issues, and I was able to experience another part of the fellowship, which is Sex Anonymous. Which was helpful for me to help me to deal with those other addictive behaviors in the fellowship.
Because it's not just one thing. That one thing may be what we use, but it is much bigger than that one thing, because we can put one thing down and we can easily pick something else up.
No matter what it is.
Yes. So it's not just about the drugs and the alcohol.
No, it's the behavior.
It's the behavior. The feelings.
Yes.
So how about looking for relationships in unhealthy places? Let's talk about that.
Yeah. And that's where that a lot of that sex issue came up for me is I noticed this and I found out about this looking for a healthy relationship in an unhealthy place. I I found out about this in this process of sobriety. I was introduced to going to parks, going to bookstores, and those are places you go to hook up with people who have sex, you know? And there's a lot of lonely people, particularly, I guess we are focused on the same gender loving people. And there weren't places where people can go and socialize. When most people back then were going to clubs, they were going for the opposite sex to hook up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There wasn't really a place for us to go to meet, you know? So I guess that was, and I'm thinking about it, I'm guessing that was like a place for us to go and meet, and engage. I know there was the club scene as well, but the club scene wasn't as prevalent as, the straight clubs.
Right. Right. So going into these places, were they sometimes dangerous for you?
It's dangerous. Wow. Yeah, it could be dangerous because you never know who you're going to meet. I guess that's
Right.
with any type of new person that you meet.
Mm-hmm.
Parks aren't really a place to go, especially if it's nightfall.
Mm.
And so you don't know, you're just really, being risky. You don't know what you're going to meet or who you're going to meet. And that was very common, in I don't know if they do that in the straight lifestyle, but in the same gender loving, it's kind of common to go to places to hook up like that. The bookstores, you get the same feel at a bookstore. It's just a more, I guess, a safer environment because it's not against the law.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because so it is dangerous because it's against the law.
It's against the law. So even with the danger, even with the being dangerous, and this, why do you continue to go into the same environment?
Why did
you continue to go into the same environment?
To get that fulfillment of, it's an addiction again.
That same hug like you were getting when at the beginning of the meeting, to get that same hug, to feel so special.
And to have a connection.
Oh, okay.
Sexually, physically,
Even though it's transitory.
Yes. What do you mean by transitory?
Temporary.
Absolutely. And it's like the feeling back then, to feel that was I didn't think the feelings through. I didn't think the whole scene through. It was that initial good feeling that I kind of chased after. And then afterwards there's that emptiness again. It's the unfulfillment. It's the hole that's never. It's all about trying to fulfill this hole with something other than something healthy.
Yes, something healthy. Spirituality, Jesus Christ.
Yes.
And the thing is, so many of us, we are still trying to fill that hole. Yeah. It may not be in the same manner, but a lot of people are still walking around trying to fill a hole.
Yes. I do too, even today. I still find myself.
Mine is cake. Give me a piece of cake, homemade. You know that. Give me a piece of cake, and I'm like, okay, I'm good. Yes. Let me be up by myself watching the movie, the lights out, eat my cake. Whew, I'm good.
I had a bowl of ice cream last night. So I get it. I get it.
And that just lets us go ahead.
And I, when I am in God's will, when I'm in higher
Mm,
power's will, that void isn't there, you know? So that's the hit for me, to remain in God's will.
remain in God's will. Wow.
But
So I'm going to go a little further, and you can answer this if you don't, if you choose to, because you said to remain in God's will. What would you say to the person that says same gender loving relationships aren't God's will?
Interesting that you asked that. Um, I think we are all God's children.
Mm-hmm.
God made us who we are, the way we are. He knew who I was in my mother's womb. I don't remember the verse from the Bible. There is a verse in the Bible stating just that. And I wish I can think of it, but I can't remember it. But it's about you're the image of God.
And then
And
there's Jeremiah when he said that he formed you, in our mother's womb. He knew who we were going to be before we were born. And that's in Jeremiah. I think it's Jeremiah 29:11. I'm not sure, but I think it's
okay,
Jeremiah 29:11.
all right. And so that's one part of the answer. And the second part of the answer is that um, we deserve love as well. We want to be in relationships where, as I am now, I'm in a nice, nurturing, healthy relationship, and I've never thought I would be able to experience this. And yeah, and so it's very meaningful, and it's good to be nurtured by someone else who respects you and loves you for who you are.
So for the Black church, as a Black man, because we know as a race there are a certain amount of disparities, period. And
Hmm.
then for a same gender loving man,
Hmm.
those disparities increase. So what would you say for the faith, the church is where we should be able to go to be accepted regardless of who we are? Because a
It's
lot of men are ostracized from the church. A lot of same gender loving people are ostracized from the church. They are treated differently in the church.
I
So,
know
how has your experiences been with the church?
it's been a roller coaster. I've had moments where I sat there and I accept the abuse from whether it's the preacher or just the deacons or whoever it may be. It's not a healthy environment to sit in when when a church is abusing, when they're beating you with the Bible. And what helped me was I looked for outside help. I got therapy, and I'll never forget this lady. Her name was Mary, and she she instilled in me that I belonged, and don't let anyone tell you otherwise. And you do not have to sit anywhere where you're going to be abused.
Mm-hmm.
You want to go where you're celebrated and not tolerated.
And welcome, hug.
Yes, absolutely. So I started looking for those places who celebrated me and not tolerated me. And
Mm,
and I left churches because of that type of abuse from the pulpit. Um, and I learned how to walk away from that. So and I was able to um, get to this point because of the outside help and this fellowship. And I'm so grateful that I have family and friends who nurture me as I am.
As you are.
And
Wow.
that's a major difference.
It is. It is. Wow. Thank you. This has been good. So, something else I read about same gender loving relationships in the Black males. There's a higher rate of depression because you aren't accepted as much as your white counterparts, and a 39% suicide rate, or suicidal, the correct word, suicidal ideation. Was there ever a point in time in your life that you thought of suicide?
It was, Gail. I was using a lot, and I wanted to get out of that. I knew that it was a better way of life, and I don't know if it was because of the same gender loving issue, and it was probably because I was just feeling lonely. They're saying now that I was feeling alone at dealing with this issue of being same gender loving, and they're saying that this addiction is a lone addiction as well, a loneliness addiction. So I was just trying to find a way of getting out of this addiction, and I contemplated. I thought about what would be the easy. I was looking for help, didn't know how to ask for it. So I said to myself, well, maybe if I just ran my car into this tree and somebody just somehow see the help I need. I thought about it, but I never tried it. But as long as it's kept, I was killing myself anyway because of the drug usage.
Yes, the physical death.
Yeah.
The spirit, not the physical, but the spiritual.
The spiritual death and the physical death at some point, because I wasn't, and when I'm addicted, when I'm in my grip of addiction, I'm not thinking about eating healthy or resting. So
Taking care of yourself,
right?
Wow. And I want to go back to correct myself. Mental health impacts such as high rates of depression, anxiety, and suicidal ideations. 39% of symptoms of depression. So the 39% were the symptoms of depression, not suicidal ideation. So I just wanted to go back and correct myself.
Okay. I was diagnosed.
Excuse me?
I was diagnosed with anxiety.
Yes.
Which is how did they put it? It was a symptom of depression. And that was back in, when I just became aware, when I started embracing myself, that, and so the doctor tried to prescribe a medicine, and I wasn't really for that. I didn't want to accept that. So he told me just to live a different lifestyle. So I started exercising more, eating better to deal with anxiety.
And has it helped?
It has. Yes.
It has. So tell us, how many years of sobriety do you have today, Mr. Terrance Brown?
Gosh. Thank you. I got sober when this is interesting, when they freed Mandela.
Ooh, that's a long time ago. 2 freedoms at one time.
February 1990, the 12th of February. I remember in the news when they freed Mandela. I was like, wow, what a coincidence. And it's not like I planned that. It was just the same day that I was fed up. I had hit a bottom, So it's been 30, I'm going on 36 years.
36 years
Of sobriety. Yes, ma'am.
So what type of hope would you give someone that's struggling with an addiction right now? Not necessarily substance abuse, just any type of addiction. What type of hope would you give them?
Okay. Wow. Well, the addiction piece. It's about. I think it's more like a spiritual warfare, for lack of a better phrase. It's like some type of spiritual avoidance that you're trying to feel, and I think it's important to realize that. And for me, I had to come to terms with knowing that there was a better way of living outside of hurting myself, and allowing myself to be in that that moment. I'll never forget I think that gospel singer Pam, what's her name? Pamela Mann.
Pamela Mann, yes.
She sang the song of what was the title of that song? I never thought I would be in this place, or something of that nature. And it's only because I took what was suggested of me, and I listened to people who cared for me, who knew that there was a better way of life, and I found God, Jesus, in this process to fill that void that I was trying to feel. And in that fulfillment, I was able to experience life in a different nature.
Yes.
You know? And so I just say, just do what is asked of you, be around healthy people in healthy places, and do healthy things to have a healthy life. And I every day isn't peaches and creams for me. But one thing I do know is that my worst day in sobriety outweighs my best day in the bondage of using.
The bondage of using. I read a book by Nathan McCall, and the title was "Makes Me Want to Holler," and he forward part of it, to his dad, acknowledged his dad, and he said that all the things that you taught me as a man, I have grown to be. Whom I choose to love is such a small part of the man that I am today. Do you concur with that?
I do, because it was such a main factor once upon a time of who I choose to love, and I wanted everybody to accept that. And I disregarded all the other characters about myself. I was a great father. A great son, a great brother, a great friend, a great cousin. I was intelligent. I was smart. I just disregarded all the other stuff because of the same gender loving piece of wanting to be accepted. And I will never forget a dear friend of mine. Her name is Phyllis. We share the same birthday. She's 10 years older than me. She said, T, she called me T. That's a small part of you. She saw that in me before I saw it. And it took years for me to understand that about myself. And that's important for the same gender loving, caring community who's challenged with wanting to be accepted by that one little piece.
That one little piece.
Don't disregard the rest of yourself.
I think we can end with that. But I do have a question for you, okay?
As you desire.
Yes. This is the Gala Stella Survivor Podcast. Tell me 3 things that has helped you to survive.
God. I could say God 3 times, but God, support from family and friends. Self-love.
Self-love. Thank you so very much. God, support from family and friends, self-love. Thank you.
My pleasure.
I
My
love you.
pleasure. I love you too. Thank
This
you
is
so
good.
much.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Oh, that was such a good interview. So stay tuned for the whole month of July. As my guests, they're going to talk about freedom. What does freedom mean to you? And as Miss Toya Knowles said, are you willing to do the work to gain your freedom? Have a great day, everyone. Bye.